Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Julie and I have a special guest today. We're going to talk about Philippines. We're going to talk about traveling the world. We've got a gentleman that's been an expat for 36 years, and he's Danish, and he's calling Philippines home. And he's even written a book about how to be an expat, the quality of life, and tips and tricks and things like that. So let's welcome today Morten Karstensen.
Thank you, Warren, Julie. Thanks for having me. Hope you're good over there. I'm in the Philippines now, so yes.
Well, we're excited about getting some information from you to our viewers about life in Philippines, as well as learning a little bit about your history of travel and how it evolved. But I guess first, let's give a plug to your book because you've got an interesting book, and that's kind of where I saw you. You were on our Facebook group, Expat Slow Travel Nomad Network, and you mentioned your book, and I looked at it and was like, "Hey, this is intriguing," and I think our viewers would be interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, to start with the book is called The Expat and Digital Nomad Guide, and most of it is it's in the title, as they say, how to thrive and live abroad. So I've been away from Denmark for 36 years total, 30 of them in the Philippines, a couple of years in Malta and Portugal recently. And what I see is a lot of people with questions. They don't know how to go about moving abroad, and when they get there, what to do, how to prep yourself for the culture shock, everything from cost of living and so it's been muddling around in my head since the Algarve, since last year. And I thought, well, now is a good time to put everything into writing and put down tips and tricks on how people can save, where they should spend, what they should spend on healthcare in Spain and stuff like this. Important tips and with a lot of stories. And I keep it very funny. Not that I'm a funny joking, but I keep it witty. I keep it relaxed. So I have thousands of stories. I could write a lot of books more about my stories. But I try to throw in some personal stories to sort of relate to the people and make them feel at home in the book, so to speak.
Your life, you're in Philippines, and before we get into your cost of living, your expenses and things, um, how did you end up in Philippines from your Danish life, and what brought you there?
Well, like all Vikings, we have to go out and see the world, right? So I came here in shipping, freight forwarding in 1995, Danish freight forwarding company. So selling air freight and sea freight services. Did that for 5 years. Met my girlfriend, now wife, a doctor and a painter at the time. And we said, well, we're both sort of entrepreneurial minded, and I wanted to get the tie off and from the whole shipping world. So I moved south of Manila, where she's from. And down there, we started a candle company. And she's very good with the arts, very artistic and design beautiful candles, and which I cannot, but I can sell it. And I knew where and how. This is the fax sort of era. We just came out of the Telex back, going way back. So yeah, 99, 2000, and then we started building the factory. So we did the candles, eventually ending up selling to a lot to France and Germany and Crate and Barrel, Pottery Barn, stuff
Can,
like that.
can people buy them online?
Crate and Barrel.
No, we
Wow.
we stopped. I should probably write a book about that. But we had a fire in 2012. So if you have a candle factory, what you don't want is a is a fire. We had 40 tons of candles, 50,000 tons of 50,000 kilos of wax on the floor. So it was the whole thing just burned to the ground, and did a whole year hunting down insurance money, which was very difficult. So we said, well, maybe it's a sign. So by 2014, I said, let's stop that. And I went into outsourcing eventually in 2015. And I had my own virtual assistants. We're working for American companies, still have a couple working for Danish and San Francisco companies, and then they hire and outsource the cheap labor from the Philippines to do accounting and admin stuff like that. And then the last 2 years have been doing recruitment for Europe, which again, I came out of the office and I said, well, I want to do what I like to do, and I want to do it remotely. And I figured the recruitment was one of the best things to be into.
So
And
if somebody wants to live in the Philippines, you're married to a Filipino, but there's digital nomads, there's pensioner programs, and of course, you should probably always go check out a place before you decide to move there. Julie and I actually went to the Philippines in 2015 as tourists, which incredibly we were surprised to find out in our earlier conversation that we're kind of oddballs because we went there as tourists and spent a couple of weeks, and there's only 2.5 million tourists going to the Philippines a year, where in Montenegro, a little country in Montenegro, there's more than that, almost 3 million in Montenegro. So you have all these beautiful islands, but there's many different sides to these islands. I think further south has a little bit worse reputation for some of the dangers, but we were in Cebu and Bohol and some of the other smaller islands. We went through Manila. So it's a very very different from location to location. So it's
and not easy to get from one location to the next. It takes a long time to get to some
yeah,
place.
and I think that's the biggest thing you've probably seen if you've gone to Panglao and Bohol and Chocolate Hills, and it's the renting of the car, and it's just to get there. I think it's a pity because there are crazy nice beaches, and and people say, okay, we'll go through all this trouble to get there, and then when they finally get there, they're slapped with $250 a night for a hotel or something. The prices are getting spicy. I'm at a vacation spot right now because I'm attending a wedding on Friday. So I'm in Boracay. And we had to get a little bit further away from the beach so we could keep it less than $100 a night. Uh, there's a disparity. There's a big gap between what people earn and what things cost. And that's what I'm covering in my book, is that the high price of real estate, the high price of imported goods, because we don't, we produce so much for local, even the coffee and rice we import, which is crazy weird. And all the good stuff. Of course, I'm Danish, so I have to have Danish cheese. But the you have all this expensive tariffs. So I try in my book to say, okay, well, when you come with your shopping cart, whether you're in Montenegro or the Algarve or you're in Malta, you come with your shopping cart, you go shopping for 1 week. What do you put in the shopping cart? So I made like an Excel sheet in the book, and I said, I put, okay, I only put two bottles of wine. Right? So you put in whatever you need for the week, and pork and meat and vegetable. Then what will it cost in the Algarve? What will it cost in the Philippines? And the Philippines came out 38-40% more expensive than most European countries.
I was really surprised when we were talking earlier about real estate, and you're telling us that real estate, 3,300 euros per square meter is average near Manila,
Yeah,
which is kind of surprising to me, seeing that I believe we could actually get something lower in parts of Portugal
or Montenegro.
or Montenegro.
exactly. I have a whole comparison chart and everything in the book where I do a deep dive into that. The whole thing started 2 years ago or three years now when we looked at Malta. We said we're going to go to Malta, and we said, well, hold on, maybe we will move to Bohol. It's nice, or Cebu or something like that. I started looking for condos and stuff like that for rent, and that, I mean, you have to at a certain level look at quality. You have to do apples to apples, right? They say I like to have something that's a little bit new, maybe less than 5 years old, clean, aircon and stuff like that, and in a nice neighborhood, not super posh, but just like and so you have to look at the same when you go to Malta, and you look at the same here. and we came up with around €1,000 a month in for the two-bedroom here, which was the same we ended up paying in Malta. In the Algarve, we were paying, I think, 800, 850. And then we said, well, why is it so cheap there? And so let's go and prove them, prove them wrong. And when you say to people from the Philippines that you're going to Europe, they say, you must be very rich. I said, I'm leaving because, I just paid €5.50 for a kilo of potatoes, So yeah, things are getting. And then I do a deep dive in this in the book why some vegetables. I just paid €6 for a kilo of broccoli. When I have beef, I make beef with broccoli, and I need broccoli. So if you don't want to have it, you just don't buy it. But I was like, why, right? So it's because of the transportation costs. These broccoli and these vegetables come 250 kilometers away. It's 9 hours to drive to Bicol to get them. And it's fair enough, it ends up at that price, right? But there's no regulation. And most European countries, I think you have also in America, there's a regulation, right? The federal or the government comes in and say, okay, you cannot sell tomatoes for, €10
I
per.
paid less than that for broccoli this summer in Copenhagen, so I can tell you that seems
Exactly.
pretty high.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be somebody on here that's going to challenge this. So I'm going to say, first off, as a reminder, he has a Filipino wife, because there's going to be somebody on here going to say he's getting gringoed because he's a foreigner. He's been there for 30 years. He's got a Filipino wife, so he's paying what they pay, and so
Yeah.
it obviously is higher than what I think most people are going to perceive, and it's not due to him being a foreigner.
No, no, I live pretty much as a local now in Lipa, in Batangas, and I go to the Palenque, is what we call the market. I check the prices for chicken there, and most of the supermarkets, everything is mall-based in the Philippines. So the supermarkets here, they draw the crowd in because they have air conditioning. So they have the volume, and their uh, ground beef, chicken, potatoes, and stuff like that. It's just a little bit more expensive, and people just pay a little bit more. And what we ask our Filipino friends, they said, well, we just don't buy beef because it just broke €12 per kilo. So we just buy something else. But I said, well, it shouldn't be like that. Nobody makes a fuss, right? And then eventually, when they have queso, when they have to make that dish, they will end up buying it, right? And I say, it's just not right.
Well, the
Um,
Philippines is not known to have huge swaths of grazing land though either. I mean, you guys
yeah.
they're building these terrace farms to grow things, and so it's a lot of small islands of different sizes and shapes of different types of soil. So
Pork
you
is,
yeah,
yeah.
you can't uniformly say everything grows on every island.
No, I mean pork is cheap. I took a deep dive into vegetables when I wrote the book, and I walk on the street where some people have farms in the back, but then they level the price from the supermarket. If the supermarket is selling potatoes at €4 around, this is November, and then I tried again in January, which is still bananas. I just paid 90 cents per kilo in the Algarve a couple of months ago. Anyway, so I said, well, if I go to the guy on the street, the vendor who has no overhead, he's not got air conditioner or anything else, it was €3.50. And they said, it's cheap because it's €4 in the supermarket. Well, I says, this doesn't make it cheap, man. It's just that everybody comes to you because it's cheaper than the supermarket. But yeah,
Wow.
so
And I
and
paid
then
50 cents, 55 cents euro per kilo for potatoes in Montenegro right before I left.
that's
So
good.
what about foods that would be perceived as common? So let's say seafood, or let's talk about rice and if people are eating seafood and rice, like when we were in Philippines, we were having what was called the Filipino breakfast at one of our hotels on a regular basis, and there'd be a piece of fish on there, some rice, some eggs, some fruit. What type of prices are we looking at?
Well,
Things
the
like that.
rice. There's many classes of rice. I go for the jasmine, and there if the Thai jasmine is €1.2, which is the fancy stuff. I could buy the local rice for around €1
For a kilo.
per kilo. And I
That's what
think
we
it's
paid.
and I think it's the same I was paying in so you can
I'm
then
really quite
buy
surprised.
some low grade sticky rice which they just use to make rice cakes and other stuff. There you come down to around 80, 90 cents. So that also is, I think, the same as what you guys and then you have fish. Now I live in the middle of Luzon, so it's like far from the sea. So the fish that we have is usually it's from Vietnam. It's the milk fish and stuff like that, which is the cheap stuff. Uh, the Vietnamese have a big the pond fish production. They export it over, and we get it cheaper. They beat the local farmers with the prices. So, but you do have Filipino fish that you can buy fresh. I would say the seven to €9 per kilo for the fish. Different
It
kind of
seems
fish.
still
Lapu-lapu.
pretty high.
Uh,
Now, the one thing that I'm curious about, because you'll see it all over on so many vlogs, is restaurants. So are restaurants a little bit more expensive or a little less?
it's cheap to go out because anything connected with service industry is cheap. The average salary here is 11 to €12 per day. So the salaries are crazy low compared to Europe. So anything to do with hairdressers, service industry, restaurants is cheap. And then the markup on the alcohol and the food is not so high. And then the overhead is low because they don't pay so much in salaries. So the difference between cooking a good meal at home and going out is very small. It's a couple of bucks. And so we go out a lot. We take advantage of that when we're here, so because we're a little bit lazy, but it's good. And so if you buy a beer, San Miguel, which you can maybe remember, is our beer here. It costs €1 to buy a San Miguel in the supermarket, which is expensive. I'm from Denmark. We have Carlsberg, right? I was in Denmark for summer, and we were paying 35 cents for a Carlsberg in the supermarket in Denmark. And then I come back to the Philippines, and then we're paying €1. But then when you come to the restaurant, you only pay 1.5, €1.6. So the markup is not. Whereas if you go to a Danish restaurant, you probably pay €8 for a beer, right? Because
And
yeah, coffee is cheap because we get it from the mountains. But
There's two of you, you and your wife. Can you give us an estimate of what is your monthly expense for restaurants and entertainment, as well as what's your monthly on groceries, do you think?
we spend around €400 per month on groceries. And then we don't pay rent, so we don't have because we own the land, so we're on the family land. And then there's healthcare around €50. Telecommunication, internet, same as most of Europe. I think we're paying 22 euro per month, around 16, 24 gig. So around more or less the same sort of level as what we're paying in the Algarve. If you have to buy cars, rent cars, it gets spicy because the taxes on the cars are a little bit higher than they were in Europe. But I write that in my book. The only thing I think that's left that you can buy as a foreigner in the Philippines is a car. You can't buy land by law, but you can buy apartments. That's why you have a lot of people coming here to invest in the new apartments, which is probably also why the influx of the prices. Because we were saying how come it became 3,500 euro per square meter? It's because a lot of people buy as investments, hoping it will just go sky high. A lot of these sky rises of the apartment buildings, half of them are empty because people bought that 6, 7 years ago as an investment, and then nobody moved in. I know a guy. He lives on the 20th floor. He's never seen anybody in the elevator. He's just like up and down, and because people at that price, they say, well, we're gonna wait. Eventually, someone might buy the 100 square meter apartment for 330,000 euro, right? So So it will eventually get sold. It might go down a little bit, but yeah, that's the market in our little city. About little, 500,000 people in our little city, and then they built some high rises there, and it was for 28 square meters. It was 3.5 million. It's 80,000 euro for 28 square meter studio. So these are like for the students and stuff. So when you come up to 65 square meters, the two-bedroom would be around 180, 190,000 euro. And I was like, where they just get the numbers out of the thin blue air, right?
And I'm sure there's going to be some folks on here saying, how do the locals possibly afford this? And I will tell you from our experience, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't. Because
in my book, I have some numbers on poverty, and it's a very political, the whole subject on this. But I have some numbers there, and I think it was 17% that's under the poverty line here in the Philippines, which is then the number changes. It used to be $1 a day. I think now it's a $2 a day. And then you have people at or about the poverty line around 33, 35%. So if you put them together, it's around half that are on and above the poverty line, which is $2 to $3 per day, right? So no, they of course can afford these pricey condominium prices, so they move further away from the city. They have a longer commute to get to work because the lucrative jobs would be in Manila, or the high IT area. So they suffer under this, and then the healthcare system is also another thing I know a lot about. We've been in and out of hospitals here for many, many years. And that's also getting very expensive, which also again means that healthcare costs, if you're going to buy insurance, also becomes more expensive. So here we pay maybe 200 to 300 euro per month if you're going to have a full 100% coverage for your. I guess
Wow, this has been enlightening to me because, you see so many digital nomads say, I'm going to go live in the Philippines for like $600 per month. And really and truly, I mean, you're giving us a clear picture that really it's not as cheap. You do have some cheaper things, your restaurants you'll be able to go out for. You said your haircut cost you $1.50 equivalent.
$1.50, yeah, but I think you can also see why the quality of the
I don't know, it looks better than mine, and I think I spent about 13, 14 euros my last haircut.
And so I'm amazed. I mean, it actually seems like it's quite a bit more than the average. I think maybe more expensive than Montenegro in some respects.
Yeah, I mean, when we're always computing like you in couples. We're computing 2 plates, 2 meals, so the apartment is normally we look for two-bedroom apartment. But if you come out as a 22-year-old guy and you just want to go out and party, and the booze is cheap, and you go out, and you can live in a 300 or 400 euro small apartment and live.
Sleep in a hammock on a little beach bungalow, huh?
Yeah, it is possible. But if you start saying, "Oh, I need healthcare, I need to have all these things, I need to have a car and stuff like that," depends. Like I could also move to Algarve and live in a one-bedroom apartment and eat canned goods to save money. But that's why I'm saying in my book I'm comparing apples to apples, and I say, well, if you have to have 2 bottles of wine and good meat and whatever, this is what it's gonna cost. And
I think your book is going to be fantastic.
I need to go flip through some of these pages. So your total monthly budget for the two of you as homeowners, what are you going out of pocket to live there?
We go around 1,500, I would say 1,500 euro per month.
Okay. So 1,500 euro. And so if somebody wanted to rent, they could probably find a habitable studio or one bedroom in the 500 euro range.
Studios would be 500 to 600, right?
Okay.
So if you need two.
Yeah, so over 2,000 a month with the 500 euros for rent, and then 1,500 for your living.
For living costs and transportation and food and stuff. Yeah.
And would that
I guess
include
so.
your health insurance as well?
I think we include the health for around 200 or 300 a month for that as well. A couple of gallbladder stone stories in my book. I got the taken out for free in Malta, and a month later, my brother-in-law got it taken out in the Philippines, and he didn't have comprehensive, and it cost him 7,000 euro, and mine was free. 4 days in the hospital, and the gallbladder, it's not like it's a big
You
thing,
say it
but
was
it does
7,000
cost
for him in the hospital?
7,000 euro
Okay.
for
And,
4
and I
days
guess
in
this
the
is
gallbladder.
this is a good point. If you're traveling to the Philippines, don't forget that I am a licensed agent, and that if you're looking for international healthcare, you can go to warrenjulietravel.com or send me an email at warrenjulietravel@gmail.com. I'll run some quotes for you. I've got 8 different companies. Julie and I, we did an annual plan this year. $217 is what it would average out per month for the two of us. $1 million of coverage and $2,500 deductible.
It's good to have those things covered with the health insurance. I have those things, as you know, obviously. I have a lot of that in my book, and I have some not scary story. I'm trying not to scare people in my book, but real, brutally honest
Oh, no,
stories.
people need to know the truth. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
always want to say everything is Shangri-La and to go there, and you need to set real expectations. If you're going to Philippines with the idea of you're going to have a low cost lifestyle, you've got to compare it, as you said, apples to apples.
yeah,
Are you ready to be the guy that's going to sit in a hammock in a bungalow on the beach and live on $500-600 or euros a month?
yeah.
Or are you wanting to make this a home where you have Wi-Fi, you have a toilet of your own and shower of your own, and you are going to regular restaurants and getting regular groceries and making your own food? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the whole apples to apples. It all depends on how you want to live, and I just put the information out there, and that's why in my book I differentiate between the expat, which is normally on a little bit more lucrative expat salary, and then you have the digital nomad. But the digital nomad can get fired. He can lose his client, right? He have clients online. He can lose his job tomorrow. Whereas the expat, he's probably, he's coming out for the 2 or 3 years, whether he's going to Saudi or Jakarta or whatever. So it's a bit more risky to the digital nomad. And I put in tips there how he has to secure his money. I'm saying always have enough money for 6 months, no matter where you are, and then have enough money for the ticket to go back home, right? You don't want to be broke and be stuck
I
at
think
the
your
other
book
side
would
of the
be
world.
great. I think your book is going to be a great resource for people looking to start and do this life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
I
the
think
research.
a lot of people that are interested in the Philippines are veterans that were once stationed at either at Clark Air Force Base or Subic Bay, which are military bases that have closed down because, first off, there's a lot of people want to go back for nostalgia reasons, but they've got a VA hospital. It's one of the only veterans hospitals outside of the country, outside the United States and the world. So I know a lot of U.S. vets want to go back to those areas. And they can go back there on pension. So if they're on Social Security or have a military pension, they qualify to go back and be able to live in Philippines as pensioners. But I think for those that are in that category, it's good for them to understand that the prices may not be what they remembered back when those bases were open.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, my book doesn't revolve too much about the Philippines only, but I do have stories about it, and I have some chapters there. I try to give more like a whole world sort of view, but yeah, it is getting spicier here, which is what led us to Europe and looking into that as well.
So, Morton, thank you for your time today. It's been really, really enlightening. If you want to buy Morton's book, I'm showing the cover right here. You can find it on Amazon, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to give this video a like. And we hope you're going to follow us as we try to enlighten you on what it's like to live in different countries, different places, and sharing experiences and expenses, not just of our own, but of other expats and nomads out there. And if you'd like to be part of one of our videos, shoot us an email at warrenjulietravel@gmail.com if you have a story to tell. And until next time, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Ciao.